Hey everyone, Dr. John Schaefer here. Today we're going to be talking about the truth behind hiring a physical therapy business coach to start an online business. I feel like online businesses for physical therapists have kind of been exploding over the last couple of years, and I really feel strongly that it's important that you're informed going into hiring a business coach, so you know what sorts of things to expect, what sorts of things to avoid, just as well as some different lessons that I've learned from working with now three different business coaches or coaching groups because they're all a little bit different, but they all have a lot of similarities. And by the time you get to maybe your third, it's starting to become a lot of repetition. So just want to cover some of my experience and give you a little bit of insight because I know a lot of times when you're talking to some of these coaches, you don't really know what to expect. You don't know if they're promising you the world and aren't going to deliver. Or you don't know if it's going to be a positive experience. So I just want to give you some insight as a peer here. So the first lesson that I learned working with business coaches, really you're paying for speed. So could you learn some of these skills? Could you learn some of these things on your own and grow over time? Absolutely. But if it's a situation where you want to move quickly, if you want to get some of your systems in place very fast and you don't want to experiment on your own quite as much as follow a blueprint, then paying for a coach could make sense for your specific situation. So oftentimes you're paying to avoid some of these mistakes and really to streamline your processes fairly quickly. The next lesson that I learned that I want to cover is no one can do the work for you. So it doesn't matter who's coaching you, who you hire, what they have to say, what their systems are. At the end of the day, it is up to you to do the work and it's up to you to make things happen with the resources they provide. So they could be giving you, the perfect blueprint, but if you're not executing, nothing's going to happen and you're not going to get results. The next piece I want to talk about is just choosing your coaches wisely. So I've had, three different coaches, three very different experiences. At best, I've had coaches that have been very hands-on. They've answered my messages at all hours of the night, been available, constantly, really doing everything they can to help me succeed. And we're very engaged and invested in my success and overall progress. At worst, I've had coaches that felt a little bit more like cheerleaders who didn't necessarily give me concrete direction, and were also very difficult to get a hold of. I had a situation where I was doing a lot of work during the week during a residency program while also trying to start this online business. And a lot of times I was putting in work over the weekends at trying to ask questions, get a hold of anyone. And oftentimes I wouldn't get responses until Monday. And I felt like there just wasn't a lot of things just weren't very streamlined in terms of how quickly I was able to make progress. So another thing to consider is all coaches that I've worked with have had group calls, and just make sure that when you're talking to some of these coaches, you understand, when those group calls are, if you're going to be able to make them and take full advantage of them. Because if you're not, oftentimes, those group calls are a huge part of the coaching process. So if you're not able to make those group calls, maybe working with that group doesn't make sense. But whatever you decide to do in terms of working with a coach, make sure you meet with multiple, compare them, talk to past clients if you're able to. Um, and all this is going to help you make the best decision in terms of what coach or what, coaching group makes the most sense for you. All these coaches are going to tell you very similar things. You're going to be taught to choose a niche or niche. Some coaches are going to suggest picking a niche based around your interests. For instance, I work with endurance athletes with knee pain. I'm a cyclist. I'm a runner. I've dealt with knee pain in the past. Um, so that's an area of interest for me, somewhere I feel like I can make a difference. Others are going to suggest finding anyone who can pay you for your services and go from there. So just about getting clients, building up your clientele, and then after you start to get some income, after you start to get things rolling, then kind of refine your process, refine your niche. But the main takeaway here is you need to know who you're talking to when you start marketing so that you can have a very specific message and start to attract those types of clients that you do want to work with eventually. And you're going to be taught to attract clients through organic and inorganic marketing. So these are two different pieces. Organic will be strategies such as posting on social media, connecting with other accounts in your space, whether that's commenting, reposting, direct messaging those accounts to start to foster some relationships. And then also growing on YouTube. So having more of that long form content, because initially you need to attract with short form, and then with long form content, that's where you educate, that's where you sell, that's where you can build some of that trust. Inorganic marketing, this is learning how to run paid ads through Meta, Facebook, Instagram. And with that comes things like targeting in terms of demographics, age group, location, all that good stuff. I had one coach who was very heavy on ads and just basically taught us how to run ads. And that was his strategy. But depending on the coach, they will lean more one way or the other, and maybe utilize a combination of the two. Some people will tell you, you got to wait till you get to a certain point to run ads in terms of scaling, so that you can spend, $30 to $50 on ads a day. Other coaches have recommended, okay, start with, ads right away. It's the best way to attract people rather than trying to grow organically slowly. So some of that's just philosophy. And it gets challenging if you start to work with multiple coaches over time, because you are getting, different messages, different philosophies, but you'll be able to craft kind of what works for you, what makes sense over time, because it's with running an online business in the physical therapy space, it's not a one size fits all situation. People will do it differently and have success differently. So because some of these coaches too are going to encourage all online versus all in person, and then maybe even a hybrid mix. So understand what kind of business you're trying to grow, and then you can go from there to figure out what makes the most sense for you. Up next, you're going to be taught how to create funnels. The most basic funnel that I've been taught in the online space is having some sort of a link in your bio to click, that's going to bring clients to a website. And then on that website, there'll be a booking page that's present with a calendar. Oftentimes we use things like Calendly to help schedule those meetings. Then the client can select a time on the calendar. Both you and them will then get a confirmation email, and then you'll potentially collect data in a CRM to use for newsletters, promos, anything like that. But after you have that booked meeting, then you can get into the sales process. But this funnel can be as simple or as complex as you want to make it. But really, the calendar booking page would be all you need to get started, as well as like a Zoom account or somewhere to host that video meeting. Once you start closing sales, you're going to need a way to collect payments. So setting up something like a Stripe account is an easy way to make sure that you're able to process those payments. If you can't process the payments, you don't have a business. But going along with this, you're going to need to track your expenses for taxes. So you can use something like QuickBooks, or you can use a Google spreadsheet, anything to track money in and out of your business accounts. And that'll lead to, either tax write-offs towards the end of the year, as well as how much you might need to pay for taxes. The next lesson is sales and marketing is an ongoing process. It'll make all the difference in your income. So reading sales books, listening to podcasts, having and practicing a script for your DMs, as well as discovery calls, is going to be super helpful. You need to get to a point where you can talk about some of these things and work through your script like it's the back of your hand, and you can do it in your sleep, because then you can start to get more natural and really start to enjoy the process, rather than almost trying to memorize, okay, what do I say next in this script. Things just start to flow a little bit more naturally when you've cemented the script in your mind. And you're not going to be great immediately, but recognizing, oops, we lost our lights here. Recognizing this is something that is going to take a lot of time to get good at is, I think, very important early on, because it's easy to get discouraged if you're not making sales, not connecting with people. That can be frustrating, but you will get better with more practice. The next thing I've learned is anytime you're investing money in a coaching program, really you're investing in yourself. So even if you don't see a spike in your income immediately, the skills and knowledge that you learn and build up over time, I try and frame this almost in terms of like course credits you'd pay for college, which aren't very cheap. But again, the lessons you learn, and you'll eventually be able to apply them. And these are all things that are compounding in your skill set, that'll make you money in the long run. So I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm not a business coach myself. I just want to share the experiences I've had working with multiple different coaching programs. because I know it can be stressful, it can feel scary jumping in, but each program that I've went through, I've been able to increase my income significantly with each step. So it's just a matter of finding the right coaches, taking lessons from each coach, take the things you like, discard the things you don't like, and use all this to shape your business and how you want to run it in the long run. If you do have questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. More than happy to answer. I do have a newsletter that I post every week that's got a lot of different resources, different thoughts to run through my head. Feel free to subscribe to that if you're interested. And then I also am going to be having more resources coming out all the time. So just keep your eyes peeled, and I want to keep on educating on different aspects of the field of physical therapy. So hopefully this was helpful, and we will see you in the next one.